If your garden still has empty spaces right now, you are not alone. Late spring is when many yards start to feel uneven. A few early blooms are fading, some annuals haven't filled in yet, and suddenly the landscape doesn't look as complete as you hope. And that's exactly why May matters so much. This isn't just another month on the calendar. For perennials, it can be one of the most important planting windows of the year. Most gardeners focus on summer flowers, but experienced gardeners know something different. When you plant long-lasting perennials in May, you give them time to establish strong roots before the intense heat arrives. That root development is the real foundation of future blooms. The result isn't just color this season. It's structure, resilience, and return performance year after year. Today, I'm going to walk you through 10 long-lasting blooms that can be planted now and keep coming back. These aren't short-term fillers. These are plants that build a landscape over time. If you've been feeling behind this spring, this video will give you a clear direction and practical options you can actually use in real gardens. Let's start with why this timing is so powerful. Number 1. Why May is the power month for perennials. May is special because the soil is warming up, daylight is increasing, and plants are entering active growth mode. When you plant perennials during this period, they can focus energy on root expansion instead of surviving extreme weather. Strong roots formed in late spring often translate into stronger growth and better blooming later in the season. That said, success still depends on your climate, soil quality, and watering habit. May is not magic by itself. It works best when combined with good planting practices, proper spacing, well-prepared soil, and consistent moisture during the first few weeks. When those basics are in place, plants have the best chance to settle in comfortably before summer stress begins. Another advantage of planting now is reduced transplant shock compared to peak summer planting. Cooler evenings and moderate soil temperatures help new roots adjust more smoothly. For gardeners who want long-term results, this timing creates momentum that continues into future seasons. Think of May as your opportunity window. Miss it, and you can still plant later, but early establishment usually gives better long-term strength. Now that you understand why timing matters, let's look at the first type of perennial that performs beautifully when planted during this month. Number 2. The fast-establishing border bloom. The first bloom on our list is a dependable border perennial that quickly adds structure and color to beds, walkways, and foundation plantings. These plants are valued because they don't just flower, they help define the shape of the garden. When placed along edges or grouped in clusters, they create visual continuity and a sense of completeness. When planting in May, make sure the soil drains well and that you space plants according to their mature size. One common mistake is planting too tightly, which can reduce airflow and weaken growth over time. Water thoroughly after planting, and maintain steady moisture during the first few weeks so roots can expand deeply. This type of bloom works especially well in full sun, although specific varieties may tolerate partial shade. Over time, it forms a reliable backbone in the landscape, something you can build around year after year. Now that we've covered structure, let's move to something that helps fill empty soil and reduce maintenance naturally. Number 3. The gentle spreading ground cover. Ground cover perennials are excellent for gardeners who want a fuller look without constant replanting. These plants spread gradually, forming a living carpet that covers bare soil. That coverage can help reduce weed growth by limiting exposed ground and conserving moisture underneath. In May, ground covers establish quickly because temperatures are rising but not yet extreme. They appreciate consistent watering during the early stages, especially if planted in sunny areas. Some varieties prefer shade, making them versatile options for different parts of the yard. It's important to remember that spreading does not mean aggressive overnight takeover. Growth usually happens steadily over time. With proper spacing and management, these plants create natural continuity between larger flowers and shrubs. As roots expand, the garden begins to feel more connected and intentional. That sense of fullness is one of the biggest benefits of planting perennials during this month. In the next section, we'll shift toward blooms that support pollinators and bring beneficial insects into your garden space. Number 4. The pollinator-attracting bloom. Now we move into one of the most quietly powerful types of perennials you can add to a garden, flowers that bring life back into your space. These pollinator-attracting blooms don't just look good. They invite bees, butterflies, and other beneficial insects that help keep your entire garden ecosystem active and balanced. When planted in May, these perennials establish just in time for peak pollinator activity. The warmer weather and longer days create ideal conditions for both plant growth and insect movement. In many gardens, this is where things start to feel more alive, rather than just planted. Place these blooms in sunny areas for best results, although some varieties tolerate partial shade. One key practice is avoiding over-fertilization, because too much nitrogen can lead to leafy growth with fewer flowers. Light deadheading during the blooming period can also encourage longer flower cycles. While they do attract insects, this is actually a benefit, not a problem. A healthy pollinator presence often improves nearby vegetable production and fruit set. The garden becomes more connected, not just decorative. Next, we shift from attracting life to surviving heat and stress conditions that many gardens struggle with as summer approaches. Number 5. The heat-tolerant survivor. As temperatures rise, many plants begin to struggle, especially those recently transplanted. This is where heat-tolerant perennials prove their value. These are the plants that continue performing even when conditions become dry, bright, and challenging. When planting in May, these varieties benefit from early root establishment before peak heat arrives. The key during this stage is consistent watering, not flooding, but steady moisture that encourages deep root growth. Once established, many of these plants become significantly more self-reliant. Adding mulch around the base can help regulate soil temperature and reduce moisture loss. It also protects young roots from sudden temperature swings. However, mulch should not be piled directly against the stems, as that can create rot issues. It's important to understand that heat-tolerant does not mean no care needed. Even resilient plants need support during their first season. After that, they typically become much more stable and reliable compared to seasonal flowers. From heat, we now move into a very different challenge many gardeners face: limited sunlight and shaded areas. Number 6. The shade-loving bloom. Not every garden has full sun, and that's where shade-loving perennials become essential. These plants are designed to perform in partial shade or filtered light, bringing color to areas that often feel difficult to manage. In May, shaded areas still benefit from warming soil and improving daylight angles. This makes it a strong planting window for establishing roots before dense summer foliage fully develops overhead. Once settled, these plants can thrive in conditions where many others struggle. Watering is especially important here, but balance is key. Shaded soil tends to retain moisture longer, so overwatering can become a problem if drainage is poor. Checking soil before watering helps avoid root stress. Even in low-light conditions, these perennials can create soft, consistent color that brightens darker corners of the garden. They don't need full sun to make an impact. They just need the right placement and patience during establishment. Next, we'll move into one of the most practical categories for small spaces and flexible gardening setups: container-friendly perennials. Number 7. The container-friendly perennial. For gardeners working with balconies, patios, or limited ground space, container-friendly perennials offer a flexible solution. These plants allow you to build a long-lasting garden without needing a large yard. When planting in containers during May, drainage becomes the most important factor. Pots must allow excess water to escape freely, or roots can quickly become stressed. A high-quality potting mix also makes a noticeable difference in long-term performance. One advantage of container planting is mobility. You can adjust placement based on sunlight changes throughout the season. This gives you more control compared to fixed garden bed. However, containers do dry out faster than ground soil, especially as temperatures increase. Regular monitoring is necessary during the early growth stage. Once established, many of these perennials become stable and continue returning each year with proper seasonal care. This category is especially useful for beginners who want to experiment without committing large garden space. It's flexible, forgiving, and highly adaptable. Next, we move into plants that don't just bloom once, but continue producing flowers over an extended season. Number 8. The extended bloom season plant. Some perennials stand out because they don't follow a short bloom cycle. Instead, they offer repeated flowering over a longer period, especially when maintained correctly. These plants are valuable for gardeners who want continuous color without constantly replanting. When planted in May, they have enough time to establish before peak blooming conditions arrive. One of the most important care steps for these plants is light maintenance during the season, such as removing spent flowers or encouraging new growth cycles. Sun exposure plays a major role in performance. In the right conditions, these perennials can extend their bloom period significantly compared to average garden flowers. However, results will always depend on climate, soil quality, and overall plant health. The goal here is not perfection, but consistency. A garden with extended bloom plants feels alive for longer periods instead of peaking too quickly and fading. Next, we shift toward one of the most appealing categories for busy gardeners: plants that require minimal attention once established. Number 9. The low-maintenance classic. Some perennials earn their place in the garden simply because they don't demand constant attention once they're established. These are the low-maintenance classics, reliable plants that quietly return year after year with minimal effort after their initial settling period. When planted in May, these perennials benefit from warm soil and active root development. That early establishment phase is where your effort matters most. After that, they typically settle into a steady rhythm of growth and seasonal blooming. One important detail many gardeners overlook is soil preparation. Even low-maintenance plants perform better when planted into well-aerated soil with added organic matter. This gives roots the structure they need to expand without stress. It's also worth noting that low maintenance doesn't mean no maintenance. The first few weeks still require watering, especially during dry spells. But once established, these plants often become some of the most dependable features in a garden. This is the kind of planting choice that pays off slowly but consistently, making your garden feel more stable and less demanding over time. Next, we move into plants that are especially valuable for challenging conditions, including tough or less than ideal soil. Number 10. The tough soil adapter. Not every garden starts with perfect soil. Some areas are heavy with clay, others drain too quickly, and some feel compacted from years of use. This is where tough soil-adapting perennials become incredibly useful. When planted in May, these plants get a head start before summer stress makes poor soil conditions even harder to manage. Their early growth period is crucial for root expansion, especially in dense or uneven ground. The key here is not to expect instant soil transformation. Instead, think of these plants as gradual improvers. Over time, their root systems help break up compact layers and contribute organic matter back into the soil environment. Adding compost before planting can significantly improve their establishment. Good drainage is also essential. Even hardy plants struggle in waterlogged conditions. What makes these perennials valuable is their resilience. They don't require perfect conditions to survive, but they still benefit from thoughtful planting. With the right setup, they become reliable performers even in difficult areas of the yard. At this point, you've seen how different types of perennials work together: structure, spread, pollination, resilience, and adaptability. Now let's bring everything together. Before you finish planting, a few small details can make a major difference in how well your perennials perform long-term. First is planting depth. Many gardeners plant too deep or too shallow, which can affect root stability. Aim to match the soil level of the nursery pot as closely as possible. Watering is another critical factor, especially in the first few weeks after planting. The goal is consistent moisture, not constant saturation. Deep watering encourages roots to grow downward instead of staying near the surface. Mulching is extremely helpful during May plantings. A light layer helps regulate soil temperature, retain moisture, and reduce early weed competition. Just make sure mulch is not piled directly against plant stems. Spacing is often underestimated. Plants that are too close together may struggle later as they compete for light and airflow. Giving them room early prevents overcrowding issues in the future. Finally, always consider your local climate zone. A plant that thrives in one region may behave differently in another. Adjust expectations based on temperature patterns, frost dates, and rainfall levels. These small decisions often determine whether a garden simply survives or actually thrives. Outro plan. So here's the big picture. Planting perennials in May isn't just about filling space in your garden, it's about building something that lasts. Instead of replanting every season, you're choosing plants that return, expand, and strengthen your landscape over time. If you take even a few of these plants and place them in the right spots, you'll start to notice your garden feeling fuller and more stable with each passing season. The payoff doesn't always happen instantly, but it builds steadily. Now I'm curious, which of these long-lasting blooms would you actually plant first in your garden this May? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more practical, seasonal gardening guides like this one, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next planting window.